Okay, we're back. Wow. This is now our 6th video, and we're now coming up to about 125 subscribers. Man, thank you. Seriously, I'm honored, and I'm grateful. I'm grateful for all of you. Before we get into today's lessons, let me remind you that at this point, you should be accepting positive things into your life on a regular basis and rejecting thoughts that come against that which you believe or are trying to accomplish. You should be protecting your gateways, your eyes and your ears by watching those shows and videos that you view and by being careful to the music you listen to. You should have cleaned up your social media profiles so that you become less polarized and more positive overall. You should be taking steps to create an environment that is conducive to you raising your vibrations by using proper lighting, by eating properly, etc. And you should be able to explain, at least in its simplest form, the principle of mentalism, the principle of polarity, and the principle of vibration to anyone who asks about it. Remember, please, we are practitioners. You are a neophyte, which is a beginner, or you are someone who may be in need of a refresher. Nonetheless, no matter where you're at in your magical journey, no matter where you are in your ascension, you should be able to do these things at this point. And if you're not there yet, well, I just want to encourage you to keep practicing and studying. It's a journey. Enjoy the journey. Okay? Today's lesson is on the Hermetic principle of gender, which states that everything, not some things, not most things, everything has gender, and that gender manifests itself in all planes. The Qabalah states that nothing, absolutely nothing, can be created without the principle of gender. Nothing can be created, be it physical or spiritual or mental, without the principle of gender. You see, you have to combine the forces of male and female energies to create life. That's just how it is. Even the universe itself is full of male and feminine energies. And so those energies can either work for or against whatever it is that you're trying to accomplish. Now, on the surface, the law of gender is going to look a lot like the law of polarity, but there are some key differences. The law of polarity and the law of gender do go hand in hand, and they do resemble one another, but they're not quite the same, okay? When we are talking about the law of gender, we are referring to two specific energy forces that are the exact opposite of one another, okay? Where the male energetic force is equated to a positive charge and the female a negative charge. Now please note, when I use the term positive or negative, it has nothing to do with good or bad. It's more of a direction, like that of a battery terminal. It's a directional flow, where the male energetic force is one that pushes out, and where the feminine force, which is the negative part of the terminal, is the force that draws things into it. So the male pushes and the female draws or pulls. The male force penetrates and the female force receives. The male force penetrates the feminine energy and impresses an ideal, or impresses a blueprint, or impresses a set of instructions into the feminine energy, which all the while pulls those things into itself. So the male force penetrates the female energy and impregnates it, and the feminine energy later then gives birth or manifests the desire of the masculine energy. Or, in other words, the male force thinks of a thing and the female force manifests the reality of that thing. Now, most, when they hear the words masculine and feminine together, or male and female together, they think of sex. And that's natural, and it's often the first thing we think of when we hear these terms. And sex, it definitely adheres to the law of gender, where the male penetrates and the female receives, and a child is manifested. That's how it works in the physical, and utilizes the principle of correspondence, which states that which is above should also be below, meaning that if something is in the physical, it must also be in the spiritual or supernatural. Okay? In last week's lesson, we learned the fact that your body creates an electromagnetic field called an aura. I like to call it an aura. Well, that energy, of course, has both masculine and feminine energy. Male energy is all the things described thus far, but it's also a focused energy. It has a purpose, where female energy is more random and more creative, and it should be noted that neither the masculine nor the feminine energy is greater or weaker than the other, as both can be really powerful when they are fully manifested. Let's take a closer look at the feminine energy. It has unlimited possibilities. It can become anything. It can become anyone you want it to become. It is completely and utterly limitless. It affects the universe from within itself, where male energy, in contrast, takes a direct path from where it is to where it's going. This energy, the male energy, this masculine energy, is super focused. It will do what it needs to do to accomplish a task or a set of instructions that it is encoded with. To understand this more, let's take a look at some basic sacred geometry to demonstrate how these two energies move and flow throughout the universe. This is a Fibonacci spiral. This chart represents both energy types, both masculine and feminine. The feminine energy is the curves in the chart, while the masculine energy is depicted with the straight lines. Okay? Now, if you look at this chart, the feminine energy starts at the center, or the inner point of the curl, and it flows out, utilizing the principle of rhythm, which will be discussed soon, probably in our next lesson. This energy, it flows outward forever in a very specific way, as illustrated in this picture. This flow, this geometry, it is present in all life everywhere. It's in everything. It is the flower of life. And we're going to have an entire lesson on that sometime when we speak on the more advanced things. But for now, we'll keep it a little bit simple. The male energy in this chart is depicted by the straight lines. It flows in a more deliberate and direct path, for it is super focused. It just goes from point A to point B to point C, etc. Both of these energies, masculine and feminine, they both get to their destination, but the way they get there is different. To see how this works in life, to give a life analogy, let's look at it this way. Think of masculine energy as taking a direct path, the faster and most effective way to get to their workplace. They use GPS, they route everything out, they're analytical about it, they find the fastest path, and they get from point A to point B. While the feminine energy takes the scenic route. Or let's look at cooking, for example, where masculine energy is going to follow the recipe exactly the way it's stated, where feminine energy is going to be more creative in their thinking. Or maybe even in a job promotion. Okay? Where masculine energy is going to get the job because they work really hard, and the feminine energy is going to get the job because they're more creative than anybody else. Let's see how else I could describe male and female energies. Male energy is linear. It is analytical. It is strategic and practical. But when male energy is lacking, or when the male energy is restricted, that energy presents itself as blundering, as confrontational, as being closed-minded and polarized. Now, it's very important to note that we are, without a doubt, living in a world that is masculine energy dominated. It's so clear when you look at the polarity that is present during our time. We are definitely living in a masculine dominated era. Female energy, well, it moves in curves. It is creative. It is in motion. It can go anywhere. It is expressive. It can do anything it chooses to do and go anywhere. When it's lacking, it has trouble sticking to a schedule. It could run amok. It presents itself through high emotional swings. and through random, fleeting thoughts. It is defocused. Its creativity, when constricted, can get jumbled or stagnant. As stated earlier, feminine energy is lacking in today's world, as today's world is dominated by masculine energies. It's just the season we are in, and there's a reason for that, but it may be too complicated for where the majority of you are to discuss that at this time. And again, it's important to note that we are in a season dominated by our conscious minds, which is the masculine portion of our mind. And yes, the brain has gender. Let's take a look. The left side of the brain is your will. It is our conscious side of the brain, which is the masculine side of the brain. It is orderly. It is statistical. It is logical. It is mathematical. It sees things in straight lines. It is rational and practical. The right side of the brain, the subconscious part of the brain, is the part of the brain connected to the divine. It is feminine in nature. It is creative. It is free-spirited. It is passionate. It is artful. And it's emotional. These two energies or these two parts of your brain, they are yin and yang. They have a very difficult time communicating, as there's a gap or a void separating the two. And this is where the magician or the practitioner operates. It is the magician's seat. It is Yesod from the Tree of Life. Okay? So here we go. This is the part that most of you have been waiting for. Let's talk about magic. The conscious side of your brain is male energy. It is that fiery, dynamic force that we refer to as the will. Whereas the female energy force, it resides in the subconscious mind, which is the portion of our brain that is connected to everyone and everything. It is how we are connected to the divine or the awe or to God itself. It is how we communicate with the universe. So Magic 101, it works like this. You have an ideal, or you have a plan, or you have a desire or a want in your conscious mind. And then you use magic as a way to magnify, intensify your projection. You project your will. So you do this by magic, or you do this by a ritual to penetrate the subconscious mind. The subconscious mind, the feminine part of the brain, which is connected to the divine or to the source or to God or whatever it is that you like to call it, the feminine subconscious mind, it will absorb and then assimilate these same desires into a reality. And the result will appear more than likely in perfect synchronizations, or what some people call as coincidences. Doors will be opened. People will come into your life where normally these situations would not have happened. This is why the will is so important in magic. Do what thou wilt is the whole of the law. And the will be a big focus of our lessons going forward, as we learn not to just dream of what we want, but rather learn how to utilize magical principles to get what we want. We'll learn how to force our will onto our subconscious mind through symbolisms such as sigils, through dramatic rituals, through daily self-affirmations, etc. We will learn how to put force, aka your feelings, for your feeling is the energy or the force that is needed for manifestations. We'll learn how to utilize our feelings to force our intentions, to force our will through the void between the conscious and the subconscious mind, so that it breaks through the subconscious mind, where there and only there will the magic manifest. As stated earlier, the male will needs to be fiery. Our will needs to be dynamic. It needs to be passionate, aggressive, and often even exaggerated. It is never passive in any form. This is the sole purpose for ritualistic magic. If your magic isn't working, then you're probably not putting enough passion, fire, and drama into it. This is what the feminine subconscious mind appreciates. Think of your dreams and how dramatic your dreams are. Dreams happen in the subconscious. Your subconscious mind, it loves drama. and will receive it when it's presented to her in the right manner. This is why we use props. It's why we have sacred temples. It's why we speak in loud tones, sometimes using Latin, sometimes speaking in tongues. It's why we wear robes. It's why we light candles, etc. They are all important. They are all there for one purpose: to impress your desires into the subconscious mind. We use these tools to evoke feelings, aka force, to leap the void or to penetrate the void between the two parts of our brain. So you can penetrate the subconscious mind, or so our masculine energy can impregnate our feminine energy, and therefore manifestation can happen. Is this all starting to make sense to you? Are you starting to see how we're combining these principles? And once we start combining them together, it becomes a little bit more simple as we progress in these lessons. Okay? So the conscious mind is a part of the brain that we know. It's who we are. But the subconscious mind is a mystery. Magick teaches us that the subconscious mind is divine. In other words, it sees all and it knows all. It's omnipresent and it's omnipotent. It is what connects all living things and non-living things together in the universe. It is the matrix. So it's important as a practitioner of magic that we guard ourselves from other people. Why? Because you will learn that we are all connected. Every living thing and every non-living thing in the universe is connected to one another. We are all made up of the God particle, or of quantum atoms, or of pure energy. And for us humans, our connection with everything and everyone is done through the divine subconscious mind. This is why we have to practice protecting our conscious mind, because that's the only part of the mind that we really can control. So we got to be careful of what we watch, of the music we listen to. And I know that's starting to sound like a broken record, but it's so important. And as we go through these lessons, you're going to have a better understanding as to why. Okay? Let's take a practical example of magic and how it relates to our minds. Or in other words, how it relates to gender. Let's look at how sigils work. Do you know what a sigil is? If not, then you will, for I will hold a class regarding sigils. But sigils, well, corporations call them logos. These are magical items that have been charged with a specific intent. So let's take a look at McDonald's, for example. And believe me, that golden M is charged. And you walk by this logo, or the sigil, and you probably don't even see it. That is, you don't see it with your conscious mind, but your subconscious mind sees it. It sees that golden M and knows that because it's connected to the greater conscious, because it's connected to the all, because it's connected to everybody, it knows that it's supposed to get hungry and crave the type of food that McDonald's sells. And how does it know that? Because some person halfway across the world, or some person in the past, charged that sigil and had their conscious mind make an impression onto that subconscious mind. And it made an impression on the subconscious mind, and the two of you are connected, as all things are connected. Not some things, not most things, all things are connected. So because he made an impression on his subconscious mind, well, it's also immediately made an impression on your subconscious mind as well. And two people by themselves probably would not warrant such an urge to eat, but if hundreds, thousands, or millions of subconscious mind are all impressed upon, then just think of how powerful that magic could be. And this, ladies and gentlemen, is how the Illuminati works. Now think about that. Think about how your subconscious mind picks up on things that your conscious mind is oblivious to. Think about that as you're driving down a busy highway with all the advertisements you see on the billboards, or when you're reading the newspaper and the ads on the side, or scrolling through your Facebook feed and not noticing those ads, but your subconscious mind is noticing. Think of all the messages your subconscious mind is receiving. Yeah, a lot, right? This is why I have you take a look at such things. We need to ward or protect ourselves. We, as practitioners, need to be guarded. We need to be focused and grounded at all times. Why? Because we want to be winning those energy battles that we've been talking about, rather than losing said battles. We want to be the ones controlling the atmosphere or controlling the energy that's in the room, rather than being controlled. We are the ones that want to choose to manipulate, if we choose to do so, those around us, rather than being manipulated. And I know that's a strong word, but it's a good word to use in this situation. Okay, that's all the time I have for today. As usual, I hope this information enlightens anyone who listens to it. I would forever be grateful if you could subscribe, like, share, or comment on these videos. Please help me pass this information along to others. Let's be participants in ushering in a new age, a new season, a season of awakening.